In a quiet corner of Austin, Texas, a rising star was silenced forever. A story of jealousy, betrayal, and a suspect who vanished into thin air. This is the case of Kaitlyn Armstrong and the murder of Moriah Wilson. When love turns to obsession, how far would someone go? Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where every shadow hides a secret. Tonight's clue: which foreign country became Kaitlyn Armstrong's refuge during her 43-day escape from justice? On the evening of May 11th, 2022, professional cyclist Moriah Wilson was found shot to death. The prime suspect, Kaitlyn Armstrong, a yoga instructor entangled in a web of jealousy. This case would spark a 43-day international manhunt and a trial that gripped the nation. It was just after 10 o'clock on May 11th, 2022, when a friend returned to her Austin home. Inside, she discovered a scene that would haunt investigators for months to come. Moriah Wilson, only 25 years old, lay motionless on the bathroom floor. She had been shot multiple times, her promising future stolen in an instant. According to reports, Wilson had arrived in Austin to compete in a prestigious cycling race. Hours before her death, she spent time with fellow cyclist Colin Strickland. Unbeknownst to her, this innocent meeting would allegedly ignite a fatal act of jealousy. Police were called immediately, and within minutes, the quiet neighborhood transformed into a crime scene. Detectives began piecing together the final moments of Wilson's life. There were no signs of forced entry, no stolen items. This was no random act of violence. It was targeted. As investigators combed through surveillance footage and digital records, a name surfaced: Kaitlyn Armstrong, Strickland's girlfriend. And when questioned, Armstrong calmly denied any involvement. But within days, she was gone. What began as a local homicide quickly escalated into a nationwide search for a woman accused of murder. Moriah Wilson was more than just a rising star in the world of cycling. At 25 years old, she was considered one of the top gravel racers in the country. Born in Vermont, Wilson grew up surrounded by sports. Her passion for cycling ignited at a young age. According to those who knew her, Wilson was disciplined, driven, and humble. Despite her growing fame, she remained grounded, focusing on her goals and inspiring others along the way. She had recently left her job to pursue cycling full-time. By May of 2022, Wilson had already claimed numerous victories and was favored to win the upcoming race in Austin. Friends described her as vibrant, kind-hearted, and entirely focused on her career. There were no known conflicts, no enemies. Her connection to Colin Strickland was said to be brief, a relationship that reportedly occurred during a break in his ongoing relationship with Kaitlyn Armstrong. By all accounts, Wilson had moved on, focused solely on her athletic ambitions. Her tragic death sent shockwaves through both the local community and the cycling world. A promising life ended without warning, leaving behind grieving family, friends, and a sport that had just begun to witness her full potential. Wilson's legacy now stands as a reminder of a talent lost too soon and a life entangled in circumstances she never could have foreseen. Kaitlyn Armstrong was a 34-year-old yoga instructor and real estate investor living in Austin, Texas, described by acquaintances as quiet, disciplined, and somewhat reserved. But beneath that calm exterior, investigators would allege a storm was brewing, fueled by jealousy and suspicion. Armstrong had been in a long-term relationship with professional cyclist Colin Strickland. Their relationship was reportedly tumultuous, marked by breaks and reconciliations. During one such break, Strickland became involved with Moriah Wilson. Though Strickland and Armstrong reunited, tensions allegedly lingered. According to reports, Armstrong had discovered messages between Strickland and Wilson. There were claims of distrust and a growing obsession over Wilson's connection to her boyfriend. When questioned by police shortly after Wilson's death, Armstrong was released due to a clerical error regarding an invalid warrant. Within days, she sold her Jeep, believed to be seen near the crime scene, and disappeared. Her sudden flight transformed her from a person of interest to a fugitive. Authorities later revealed that Armstrong had used a fraudulent passport to escape to Costa Rica. She altered her appearance, changed her hair color, and attempted to establish a new identity. Despite her efforts, the international manhunt ended after 43 days, when she was captured at a remote hostel. Armstrong was extradited back to Texas, where she would face charges of first-degree murder. Her actions before and after the crime would become central to the prosecution's case, painting a picture of premeditation and desperation. On the evening of May 11th, 2022, Moriah Wilson's final hours seemed ordinary. She met with Colin Strickland for a casual outing. According to reports, they swam at a local pool, shared conversation, and then he dropped her off at the friend's home where she was staying. Unbeknownst to Wilson, surveillance footage allegedly captured Kaitlyn Armstrong's black Jeep circling the neighborhood shortly after. Moments later, gunshots rang out. The friend who owned the home was not present at the time. When she returned around 10 o'clock, she found Wilson lying in a pool of blood in the bathroom. 2 gunshot wounds to the head and 1 to the chest. There were no signs of forced entry. Investigators theorized that Wilson may have left the door unlocked, trusting the safety of the quiet neighborhood. Ballistics later matched shell casings at the scene to a firearm registered to Kaitlyn Armstrong. This crucial piece of evidence would become a cornerstone in the case against her. According to court documents, Armstrong had allegedly tracked Wilson's whereabouts using fitness apps and digital communication between Wilson and Strickland. The precision of the attack suggested premeditation. 3 shots fired, all lethal. There was no struggle, no warning. Wilson was still in her cycling gear, her phone nearby. It appeared she had been preparing for bed, unaware of the danger that had entered the home. The brutality of the crime shocked even seasoned investigators. It wasn't a crime of opportunity, it was personal. Within 24 hours, detectives honed in on Armstrong, but before they could secure a proper warrant, she was already taking steps to vanish. Her Jeep was sold for over $12,000. She discarded her phone and obtained a passport under her sister's name. By the time law enforcement pieced together the full scope of her movements, Armstrong was already in Costa Rica, blending into tourist communities and altering her appearance. The crime, paired with her calculated escape, painted a chilling picture of a suspect determined to evade justice. It would take weeks, international cooperation, and relentless pursuit before she was finally captured. But even then, questions lingered. What drove Kaitlyn Armstrong to allegedly commit such a calculated act? And how close did she come to disappearing forever? From the moment Moriah Wilson's body was discovered, Austin police knew time was critical. Detectives began reviewing surveillance footage from neighboring homes. It was this footage that allegedly placed Kaitlyn Armstrong's black Jeep near the scene, just minutes before the murder. Investigators also uncovered text messages and phone records, revealing Armstrong's alleged awareness of Wilson's interactions with Colin Strickland. When Armstrong was first brought in for questioning, a paperwork error allowed her to walk free. By the time authorities corrected the mistake, she had vanished. A federal warrant was issued, and the U.S. Marshals joined the hunt. They tracked financial transactions, including the sale of her vehicle, and flagged passport records. Tips eventually led them to Costa Rica. There, working at a hostel under a false identity, Armstrong's run came to an end. Her capture was a testament to coordinated law enforcement efforts and the reach of international justice. While digital evidence mounted against Armstrong, forensic investigators faced hurdles. The crime scene offered little physical evidence beyond the shell casings. No fingerprints, no DNA left behind. The murder weapon, a 9mm handgun registered to Armstrong, had been seized prior during a separate investigation. Ballistic analysis confirmed a match between Armstrong's firearm and the casings found near Wilson's body. But without direct eyewitnesses, the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence. Investigators also examined Armstrong's digital footprint. Deleted apps, suspicious search histories, and tracking data all pointed toward premeditation. However, defense attorneys later argued that the evidence was purely speculative, raising questions about reasonable doubt. Despite these challenges, prosecutors believed the combination of ballistics, surveillance, and Armstrong's flight painted a clear narrative, a narrative that would soon be tested in court. The murder of Moriah Wilson sent shockwaves through the Austin community and far beyond. Locals were gripped by fear, questioning how such a brutal act could occur in their quiet neighborhoods. The cycling world mourned the loss of a promising athlete. Memorial rides were organized across the country, honoring Wilson's legacy. As news spread about Kaitlyn Armstrong's disappearance, public fascination grew. Whispers of a fugitive on the run fueled rumors and speculation. For weeks, Armstrong's name dominated conversations. Many questioned how someone could vanish so easily in a digital age. Her eventual capture brought a sense of closure, but also deeper questions. The case quickly became a media sensation. Headlines highlighted the dramatic elements, a love triangle, a professional athlete, and an international escape. Major networks followed every development, from the initial manhunt to Armstrong's arrest in Costa Rica. Speculation ran rampant, with commentators dissecting motives and timelines. Social media platforms buzzed with theories, some grounded in fact, others purely speculative. Throughout the coverage, Moriah Wilson's story remained at the heart, a rising star lost to senseless violence. As the trial date approached, cameras turned to the courtroom, eager to see justice unfold. But the narrative was far from over. From the beginning, investigators believed the motive was clear: jealousy, fueled by a complicated relationship dynamic. According to reports, Kaitlyn Armstrong allegedly viewed Moriah Wilson as a threat to her relationship with Colin Strickland. This theory became the foundation of the case. While law enforcement focused on Armstrong, some members of the public speculated about other possibilities. Could someone else have been involved? Was there a chance this was a targeted robbery gone wrong? However, the lack of forced entry, combined with Armstrong's disappearance, silenced most alternative theories. By the time the case reached court, Armstrong stood alone as the sole suspect. The prosecution argued methodical planning. The defense pointed to circumstantial evidence and insisted that doubt remained. But in the end, the jury would decide. In November of 2023, Kaitlyn Armstrong stood trial for the murder of Moriah Wilson. The courtroom was packed. Media outlets lined the halls. Every detail of the case was laid bare before the jury. Prosecutors presented ballistic evidence, surveillance footage, and highlighted Armstrong's attempt to flee the country. The defense challenged the narrative, suggesting that the evidence was not definitive. They argued that fleeing did not equate to guilt, but rather fear. After days of testimony and hours of deliberation, the verdict was read. Guilty of first-degree murder. Armstrong was sentenced to 90 years in prison, with no possibility of parole. The trial closed a chapter on one of Texas's most talked-about cases. But for many, the impact would linger far beyond the courtroom walls. Even with a guilty verdict, questions remain. What truly unfolded in Kaitlyn Armstrong's mind leading up to that tragic night? Could anything have prevented the chain of events that ended Moriah Wilson's life? According to reports, Armstrong has never publicly confessed. Her silence leaves a void where answers should be. For Wilson's family and the cycling community, closure remains incomplete. Justice was served in the eyes of the law, but the why behind it all still echoes, unanswered. Some mysteries, it seems, will forever remain in the shadows. The murder of Moriah Wilson left a lasting mark on Austin. A city known for its vibrant culture was reminded of how quickly tragedy can strike. In the world of professional cycling, Wilson's legacy lives on. Races now held in her honor celebrate not just her talent, but her spirit. Law enforcement agencies reflected on the challenges of international fugitives, and the public was left grappling with the devastating consequences of jealousy and unchecked emotions. This case became more than a headline. It became a cautionary tale. What are your thoughts on the Kaitlyn Armstrong trial? Let us know in the comments below. Did you catch tonight's clue? Which foreign country became Kaitlyn Armstrong's refuge during her 43-day escape from justice? Drop your answer, and you might be next week's featured detective. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.